Ninth-ranked Oregon survives 20th-ranked Iowa by doing to Iowa what most teams are a victim to when they play the Hawkeyes. Oregon won the special teams battle, they won the turnover battle, and they dominated in the ground game. They outrushed the Iowa Hawkeyes by over 100 yards, 261 yards and 7.3 yards per carry to 101 yards, or technically 140 yards because of that minus 39-yard punt. This channel will make you a college football expert and help you enjoy watching games and make more accurate predictions. So what are you waiting for? Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment your thoughts, and watch the video all the way through so that you can get the full package. And check the description and pinned comment for more ways to help yourself and this channel. 140 yards and a touchdown, and still around 4 yards per carry, or less than that, like more like 3.5. Iowa covered. Iowa was in a position to win late when they led 16-15 after that 4th and goal Mark Gronowski QB draw. That was a wonderful call by offensive coordinator Tim Lester. But Oregon, with Dante Moore and a very banged-up receiver corps, was able to pass the ball, move quickly and efficiently down the field, and kick the game-winning field goal 18-16 as time expired. Oregon is a tough team that is clutch, that has depth along the lines of scrimmage, that has high-caliber athletes at quarterback and in the secondary, and that is able to do just enough because of those things and great coaching to win games. Oregon was in a position here, I would argue, to dominate today. If they had DeCorian Moore healthy and Kenyon Sadiq healthy and Alex Harkey healthy, I think they possibly blow out Iowa here at home. It's not how football works, of course. And one thing I'm happy about is that I didn't second guess myself on this game. So I picked Oregon to win and to cover. And I said in the comments section, hold on, guys, we might have our first pick flip of the year on the channel. We might. Never did. Never. We never flipped it. I never got around to it because after thinking about it, after I released that video and the following day, I thought, yeah, I think Oregon's going to win. Maybe Iowa will cover, but I'll ride with my prediction. I don't think I don't think I got anything wrong, but it was a really difficult game for me to gauge. And I mean, no wonder. It was 18-16 final score. If not for the safety, Iowa can kick the game-winning extra point potentially. It just how I mean, they're not even in a position to kick a game-winning extra point because they lead, say, yeah, they lead 17-13 instead of 17 to, or instead of leading 16-15, they lead 17-13, and Oregon has to get the game-winning touchdown. So it was a very close, competitive contest. And yet, as I was mentioning earlier, just think about it for a minute. They were down to Corian Moore and Kenyon Sadiq and their right tackle, who's one of their best offensive linemen, one of their most physical offensive linemen. They outgained Iowa 373 to 239. Even if you take out the loss in the fake punt, that's by almost 100 yards. Iowa passed the football in a more successful manner due to two big plays, but outside of that, they didn't have a ton of success there. And Oregon rammed it down Iowa's throat on the ground for much of the game and won the turnover battle. Iowa being in this game, I think, was an impressive statement by them that they are able to win in multiple ways, where even if special teams isn't perfect, even if they're not winning the trench battle, they can still stay in games. And this also was a good game for Oregon because they can turtle up and win in that way too, where they run it the majority of the time, and you know they're going to run it, and yet you can't stop them. I have been very high on Oregon for much of the year, even extending back to the preseason. And I'm sitting here, and I'm thinking to myself, if they get Evan Stewart back, and Brycen Moore back, and Sadiq back, and Hawkeye back in the playoffs. They're not going to get all of them back in the regular season. But say in the playoffs, all of them are healthy, and they don't sustain many more injuries, or maybe one or more, but not in those key positions. This is a true national title contender. I mean, Oregon's sitting at plus 1,700 on FanDuel to win it all right now. They're very well behind Notre Dame, and they're behind a lot of these other teams that I think, why are they behind them? I know that Moore hasn't played all that well, and I know they're banged up, but we also don't know if those injuries are season ending. And let's have some of these teams, such as Notre Dame or even Georgia, let's have them play an Iowa level defense on the road in that weather and see if they do well. I don't know if they do well. So it's fascinating for both of these teams. Iowa sadly is out of the playoff picture. That would have been something that's fun. But for Oregon, they're in. I don't think they're losing more than one of their final 3 games. They're not going to lose to both Minnesota and USC, or to both USC and Washington. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Especially with how Iowa had the best lines of scrimmage they were going to face in the month of November, and they handily beat them there. So who else is going to beat them on the lines of scrimmage? And if not, do you really think that Maava or DeMond Williams, with the offenses they have, can move this defense for multiple sustainable drives? And by multiple, I don't mean 2 or even 3. I mean 4 or 5, because those defenses are not going to be... They're probably not going to be equipped to stop this rushing offense if what they showed yesterday at the time of this recording is going to carry over for the rest of the season. Did not mean to switch that there, but that's okay. I can edit that out. If it carries over for the rest of the season, it's not going to be a good thing for the rest of their opponents. The quarterback comparison here with Gronowski, I think he outdueled and outplayed Dante Moore, but Moore was able to put together a clutch drive similar to Mendoza in that final series, that final drive, and ultimately help the Oregon Ducks to prevail and win a big game. And they beat a top 20 ranked opponent. I still credit them the Penn State win to a certain reasonable degree. This is an 8-1, 5-1 team, and not saying they're one of the best teams in America. I think when healthy, they certainly are, but you have to give respect to what they were able to do in this game with the circumstances they were in. And Gary Bryant Jr. left the game very early and did not return. They were trotting out, from a preseason angle, wide receiver 4 as their wide receiver 1. And tight end 2 is tight end 1. And Janoris Wilson, I believe, was the tackle that replaced Hawkeye. They had a banged up right tackle, and Hawkeye's one of their best offensive linemen. So I'm very overall impressed with what the Ducks did from a rushing attack angle and from a defense angle, and also special teams angle, with Sappington making 3 field goals. What I'm not impressed with is Dante Moore. I honestly thought he would perform better, but a big part of that is the fact that I did not know Brycen Moore or Kenyon Sadiq would be injured. And if you play them in this game, I do believe Dante Moore probably plays at a higher level. I mean, look at Iowa's drive chart, for example. Punt, safety, punt, touchdown, punt, successful drive, but it ends in a fumble, field goal, which was a short field. It was a 58-yarder from Drew Stevens, I believe, his career-long NFL-level kick. And then they have the final touchdown drive, which they needed. They got a 4th and goal QB draw. It was a very good play design, again, as I mentioned, by Tim Lester. But to limit Iowa's best offense to this drive chart, it's their best offense since 2019 easily, or maybe 2020 to that, I think is a good thing, honestly. And when you look at Oregon's drive chart, let me give you some context behind it. So, punt early on, then they throw a pick, after getting the safety with a chance to go up, they throw a pick in the end zone. It's a play that maybe if it goes a different way, it's 5-0 or 9-0 instead of 2-0. Then touchdown drive, it's 9-0. Then punt, then field goal, then punt again, then another field goal, then another punt with a 48-yard drive, and then another field goal. They had a lot more success than Iowa on offense. Plenty more success. But due to some of the big throws by Gronowski and some of the key clutch moments by him and that staff, and that long field goal, Iowa was able to stay in it and at one point get to a position where they could come away with the win. Oregon was just able to beat them at kind of their own game, special teams and being clutch. And Iowa was still searching for that first upset win in Kinnick Stadium against a then-ranked top 10 team since 2021 against Penn State. Some takeaways that I have for you all here. Oregon can play turtle ball. What I mean by turtle ball is what, for example, Michigan did in 2023 against Penn State, where you say, okay, we're struggling to pass, whether our quarterback can't see the field or our receivers can't catch or can't get separation or we can't protect our quarterback. We can run on these guys and trust our defense and our rushing offense to win the day. That's what Oregon did. And they prevailed and they were successful. And that is impressive. It's very impressive. To win that way is a sign of a team that if they can figure things out offensively through the passing game, they can win it all, as Michigan did. And the difference is, Michigan had to do that because they couldn't protect the QB even though they were healthy offensively. Oregon is banged up offensively currently, and they were able to do this and win. What happens when they get those players back? Because they will get some of them back in time for the playoffs, I believe. Now, I know this Iowa team would probably lose by 20 neutral field to 2023 Penn State, and they'd lose by 30 on the road probably, or something close to 2023 Penn State. Maybe not 30, but in the 20s. I know. But it was still impressive for Oregon to do, especially given the circumstances. So they can play turtle ball. They can run for 6-7 yards per carry, keep you honest on the ground, and control the game that way. Both defenses are strong. They made key plays. The Deshaun Lee interception, the Deshaun Lee tackle on the play before that to prevent the touchdown, the forced fumble by, I believe, who forced the fumble for Oregon? I think it was Bear Alexander, who both forced it and recovered it. Jerry Mixon recovered a fumble. You also have the Oregon Ducks with Mateo Uiagalelei, Tatum Tuioti, Bryce Betcher getting sacks. Brandon Finney Jr. had a TFL and had a really impressive performance. Both defenses are strong. They're filled with great players and athletes, and it's the same with both offensive lines. They protected their quarterbacks. They got push. The difference, I think, from Oregon is their O-line is it's bigger and stronger than Iowa's is. I don't know if it's better per se, but its talent is certainly greater. And Oregon has a much deeper and better running back room. So that helped them win the way they did on the offensive line. You also have to take into account that Oregon did break off some big runs. So they had a 49-yarder from Dante Moore. That skews some of the numbers. They were able to also break off a 27-yarder from Whittington. But Iowa doesn't give up big explosive runs. They did here. And Oregon was also able to get consistently 3, 4, 5, sometimes 6 yards per pop, and that's impressive. Gronowski played well, had jitters early on, but after the first quarter, I think he played a great game given the defense he was facing. The difference here is that special teams won. Special teams for Oregon was able to overcome the shaky start, the injuries, and playing on the road in that hostile environment with the weather situation. That was the difference here. Special teams won this game. And to see Oregon, who has struggled on special teams all year, win in that regard with, making sure that they were able to hit all 3 of their field goals. All of them, I believe, outside of maybe the final one, were from 40-plus yards. And that they were able to not make mistakes when punting, and Iowa did, won them the matchup. Iowa's schedule from here on out's difficult. You got to play at USC and at Nebraska. Both those are losable games, but you can also win out. 9-3 or 7-5 is what I see Iowa going. That's a big difference between a season that's just okay. I think 9-3 with this schedule is impressive. You know, beating USC and Nebraska, and obviously Michigan State at home. Win your rivalry games, get a nice road win against USC, and your 3 losses are by 1 score to Iowa State, Indiana, and Oregon. And Oregon and Indiana are teams that are probably at this point going to finish with 11-plus wins. Indiana will probably win out. I don't exactly know what will happen to Iowa State, but that's a rivalry game. It was earlier in the year when Iowa State still had some confidence. So wouldn't be a bad season at all to go 9-3. And Iowa State beat TCU. So at least they're going bowling. They're 6-4. Now 6-4. Yeah, they're 6-4 now. So Iowa's a really good chance to have their best season, all things considered, since, again, probably 2020 or maybe 2019, or even if you take into account the fact they don't play in the Big Ten West anymore and they had to play Oregon and Indiana, maybe their best season since 2015. As for the Oregon Ducks, Penn State on the road, we know Penn State's 3-6. I get that, but I do think Penn State during that game and before that was at least a top 15, top 10 caliber team. The Indiana loss is what it is. Indiana could be number 1 in America. It's not that bad. This Iowa win, combined with the rest of the body of work that Oregon's put together, convinces me that when healthy, certainly a top 5, top 4 team, as the metrics suggest, and when they're not healthy, they can still find ways to win against great teams. They should be able to at least win 2 of their final 3 games, if not win 3 of their final 3. They're that good, well-coached, and deep. As for the Big Ten standings, Iowa got knocked down to 4-2, but finishing 7-2 in Big Ten play, or even 6-3, would be impressive. Oregon has an outside shot to Indy still. But if not that, I think a 10-2 Oregon gets in, and at 11-1, they're certainly getting a home playoff game, which would be a huge advantage given the environment Autzen is and the fact that most teams in the playoff would have to travel several thousands of miles out to play the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks survive, and they advance, and their college football playoff hopes and national title hopes are alive and, pending on that injury news, well and healthy. Thank you for watching. It's my mission on College Football with Sam to make you the most informed, knowledgeable, and entertained fan as possible. We aren't perfect, but we hit the nail on the head more often than we hit our thumb with the hammer. Make sure to like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, comment, and if you're here, you've probably already watched the whole video. So thank you for doing those things.